This is the OnePlus 10 Pro. I decided to buy one of these finally after wanting one since they came out back in 2022. And this is my thoughts on this. I've been an iPhone user for a long time now, and the last Android phone that I really used was the Galaxy S22 back in 2022, but I only used that phone for about a week. Before that, all iPhones basically. And as an iPhone user, there's a lot of things that this phone made me realize that I like about my iPhone. But there's also a few things that I like about this phone. So first, this phone is a pretty good deal right now, about $250 on eBay. It's got a nice design. It was released in early 2022. The design of this phone is really nice in my opinion. I really like the camera design. I think this looks really clean and really nice. I think this even looks a lot nicer than the iPhone's camera design. The cameras themselves, I'll get into later though. The phone itself, just overall good design. The display, while I like to see hole punch cameras in the middle, the bezels are pretty thin. It's a great display. Colors are made to be really nice on this display, and the whole screen looks good. It's 120Hz, no complaints there. Except for this curve, I don't like curved panels. Over the years, I've kind of realized curved panels are just annoying, and I tried using a screen protector on this, but it ended up making the touch sensitivity really bad, so I just took it off. It's not that big of a deal, I guess. As for the design too, it kind of does look a little bit cheap from some angles, but it feels pretty high quality. The back is made out of a nice soft touch material. I think that OnePlus calls it sandstone. And the cameras are like glass and aluminum. The back itself is glass. Sides are aluminum. No fake plastic like I think Google and LG and maybe even Samsung have been doing in the past few years. And the sides aren't shiny, which I like a lot. They're nice aluminum. There is no noticeable panel gaps or anything on this. And overall, I think the phone's design is great. As for camera performance though, it's not great, but it's not terrible. This phone does state a Hasselblad camera system, but it's not that good. Every phone review of the 10 Pro that I've seen has mentioned the camera at just being okay. I don't think this camera is awful, I just think it could be a lot better. I've taken a lot of photos on this phone in the past few days, and overall, I think my iPhone's camera is better, but my iPhone's a lot newer. I have the 15 Pro, and it's supposed to be better. Overall, the camera on this, I'd say, is not horrible, but it's definitely not great. And that's something that I've noticed with a lot of Androids. The color profiles just seem off. iPhones, for the past couple of years, have had just a very consistent color profile. The 14 Pro and 15 Pro's photos both look great, just because they have similar color profiles in general. They don't really try and do anything special, they just are good cameras and that's it. When this phone, it kind of seems like the colors on here are just a bit washed out, and the whites are off, the black is kind of purplish in a way. It's just not great, I don't love it. The other thing that I don't love about this phone is performance. I thought that this phone was going to have great performance. Everybody has always told me OnePluses have the best performance. But in general, this phone, in my opinion, just doesn't have the greatest performance like everybody says it does. When I had the gesture system on, it didn't feel amazing, and animations just kind of take a long time to load, especially in third-party apps. Even in the phone system settings and all, just going around the system, it kind of feels a little bit slow. And I feel like it's not because of the processor or anything, it's just because of software optimization. That's one thing that I didn't notice on my prior OnePlus phones. Like, I had a OnePlus One, and that thing was very fast. I remember using the OnePlus, I believe, 3 or 3T back in 2021, and it still felt fast. But this, it doesn't feel as fast as I expect from a OnePlus 10 Pro from 2022. This phone, it just feels like any other Android. This feels comparable to any Samsung or Google phone. That's not a good thing, I'd say. And another thing that I was excited to use about this phone was the fast charging, but it turns out I need to get a SuperVOOC charger for that, which doesn't make sense to me because I have MacBook chargers which can provide the wattage that it needs for fast charging at like 65 watts. But for some reason, it just doesn't charge without the SuperVOOC. The OS on this phone, it just feels cheap. So one thing that I always noticed about OnePlus phones is that they had battery health in the settings. This is something that I've noticed that a lot of Androids, pretty much every Android I've ever used, just doesn't have. In this phone, for whatever reason, doesn't have it in the US. I've heard that in other countries it does have this feature, not in the US. Don't know why, that's just nonsense. And overall, the OS kinda just feels cheaply made. It doesn't feel as refined as iOS or even Google's Pixel OS. And overall, some things just feel really left out. I was excited to use this OS because I want to try using like Xiaomi phones and stuff from overseas, and I thought that this phone would be kind of comparable to it, and I'm not sure if it is or isn't really. It just overall feels kind of lacking in a lot of regards. Everything just kind of doesn't feel as polished out as old OnePlus phones did, like my OnePlus 8. And that's kind of the entire theme that I see with this phone. It's a nice phone, but there's nothing special about it. This doesn't really do anything over what my S22 did, or my Pixel 6 Pro did when I had that. It's just an Android phone. And I thought the whole purpose of Android was to be unique and all phones were different, but not with this phone, surprisingly. Everything feels the same. And that's kind of annoying to me because this phone was supposed to be kind of an interesting phone to me. I'm not going to be switching to Android, obviously. I've made it clear in the past I don't want to switch to Android. I'm very happy with my iPhone, and the 15 Pro keeps impressing me more and more as I use it. As for the OnePlus 10 Pro, it's not a bad phone. It's just bland, and it seems like OnePlus kind of did settle, and OnePlus's never settle tagline does not prove true here. So, thanks for watching. Hopefully this video was enjoyable, and goodbye.